We are now going to learn about variables in Python. Now, what are variables in Python? Before I move to that, what I will do is I will just delete this part of my code because my screen is slowly getting a lot cluttered. So I can just clear it off for now. Okay, so that it's much simpler and easier to read. So what is a variable in Python? Let me write the definition. I'll just type directly the definition here. Okay, and see what I've done here. I've just added as a comment, so my code is not going to get affected by it, even if I'm writing it later on. A Python variable is a symbolic name. Okay, I'll just increase my screen size here. Okay, it's became too big. Okay, a Python variable is a symbolic name that is reference or a pointer to an object. Okay, so it is a symbolic name given to one point in the memory of the code or a part of code. So once an object is assigned to a variable, you can refer to that object by the name, which is a variable name, but the data itself is still contained inside the object. Now, if this definition confuses you, don't worry. As you start working with variables, you will understand it by default. Aaram se samajh mein aa jayega. Don't worry about it if you have not understood this. As you write your code, as you work with it, you will understand that. Okay, so don't worry about it if you have not understood this thing. Just nothing to worry about it. Okay, so I will clear this off. And however, I feel that, yeah, my screen size being slightly bigger is a better idea. It will make it easier for all of you to read the code that I'm writing. So I will keep it at this level itself. Okay, so now we will try building some project about the variables, and this part also I will clear it so that I have a very clean screen for variables. So what am I going to do? How do variables work? Okay, so to define a variable, the same I gave you a definition earlier, I'll try and explain it slightly in a different way as well, so it will roughly give you an idea. So variable is like a part of your code whose value keeps changing. So earlier in the code, what did we do? We had defined, like, let's say 2 plus 2. These were like the fixed numbers. We said 2 and 2, but what if there is some function is being processed on a variable whose value keeps changing? So that is something would be a variable. Don't worry again. Now I'll explain it to you with an example. So I've tried explaining it with a little bit of theory. Don't worry. As we are learning it with an example, you will get an idea. So let us say I will define a variable. Variable can have any name. It can be a letter. It can be a word. Not an issue. I will choose something very simple. I'll just choose letter A. And how do I define A as a variable? I'll say when you define a variable, its initial value also has to be defined. Like, what is its value when it gets started? So I'll say A is equal to 10. That's it. I have defined my variable here. My variable is A and its initial value is equal to 10. And that's it. My variable definition is done. Now, this is a small part. What I'm telling you next is only applicable if you have been programming in C programming earlier. If you have not programmed in C, don't worry. But since many students are there who have also programmed in C earlier, I'm telling a little bit of things about C, like, how Python compares with C. So that's it. Now, if you see one difference here, first of all, there is no semicolon which is added. This semicolon is not required because in Python, semicolon is not required for definition. But in addition to that, in C, we had to also define a variable as what type of variable it is. Like, you had to define it as with int for an integer, or you had to define it as float if it's like with a float. So don't worry. Okay, if you have not learned C earlier, don't get confused about this. You can ignore this part. I'm just telling it to people who have learned C earlier. Okay, so nothing like that is to be defined here. If I say A is equal to 10, since 10 is an integer, a number, right? It's an integer number. Directly A will understand that A is going to be an integer. Very, very, very simple. Okay, so that's why I always say that Python is much simpler to program than C. It's very, very simple. Okay, so now what I will do here is that let us say we have defined the variable A, but there's no action that is being done on it. So I will say print A. Remember earlier we had to say print and we used to put a number inside. Now I can say print and the variable I can give, and let me run and see our output is there as 10. Try this out by yourself. Okay, you can pause this video and try it out by yourself so that you can get a good idea about how this whole thing works. Okay, and then we'll move to the next video.